All right, guys, really excited today to introduce a great friend of mine and now colleague here at Virtue Real Estate Group, Bill Hargraves.
Hey, everybody.
What's up, brother? How are you doing this morning?
Awesome.
Good,
awesome.
good. Guys, I am so excited to have Bill as a part of the company here for several reasons. One, I'm going to start off with a story, if you don't mind.
Okay.
And then we're going to go from there. And I share the story with a lot of people because I think it's important that as you get into real estate, and I think you and I both had very similar experiences in starting with Shapiro and Shear,
Yes.
that we both understand that, dude, if we wouldn't have been in that team environment where we had a collaboration, we were both going through very tough times in our life. And I think having that the people around you is really what matters, right? Like they always talk about who you surround yourself with makes a difference. And so I was 5 years in, and Bill and I went and had lunch at Yard House. And I sit down with Bill and I'm like, dude, I'm done. No more real estate.
Right.
I'm quitting. And Bill said, the shit you are. He's like, dude, I'll pay for your license if I need to. You're going to stay in the game. And 6 months later, I had a great opportunity with Askaya, the development, and my career took off from there. So number one, guys, I just wanted to stress this morning, while it's so important to have the right people around you. And so that's why I'm so excited about having Bill here, is because just a continuation of what we already have done together. Right. So Bill, let's start off, man. What makes you excited about being part of Virtue now?
Well, I mean, like yesterday when we went on tour, it was like going home, right?
Yeah,
we used to do that with Florence and Ivan, and getting the total understanding of new listings and inventory and stuff like that. But I really was thinking about it today. Why did you move? Because now I'm responsible for a team.
Yeah.
And my team safety and welfare and success is number one.
Yep.
I eat it, drink it, sleep it. You know how I am.
Yeah.
I am very supportive of people. Take great pride and find myself energized and improved by helping others. And I just did not find that safety and security in the corporate environment.
Yeah.
You know as well as I do that the reason I got into real estate was ADT had gone down the toilet once they were acquired. And, I've had two big corporate places. The people there were great, but I just can't have somebody on the East Coast who's a stranger that doesn't care about anything and doesn't know me hold any type of security or future in their hands.
Yeah.
Because they just don't seem to care.
Yeah.
All they care about, and like I told you when I came over, I said, I'd rather put it in the Darin and Susan baby fund, any money, right? Any money that we're going to get instead of some executive's golden parachute.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think the important thing is too, I mean, we have a lot of similarities in the fact that, we're a client first mentality. And
absolutely.
I've seen that
we were raised.
That was the way we were raised. And that's what we were taught. And I've seen that from you since day one. And that's what's made you successful, is I think always focusing on the client and putting them first, which is part of one of our, our core values here at Virtue is client first.
Yes.
Everything else comes after that.
Right.
So
even in the name.
Even in the name.
Even in the name,
man.
And like I said, our tagline for the Hargraves Luxury Group came to me because of the influence of Florence and Ivan and all of the stuff that we've been through. At the Hargraves Luxury Group, luxury is not defined by price.
Yeah.
It's about it's defined by the service that you receive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know how Florence
we were just talking about this yesterday on the bus, because you were saying it doesn't matter if it's a $400,000 home or $4 million. You guys are showing up to show the property. You're there in person. You're there to help your client sell their home.
Yes, absolutely. To service the client, give them security, give them the highest quality of service, because this should be easy.
Yeah.
It should not be difficult.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry, but 90% of the transactions are difficult because of the realtors.
I was going to say,
I'm sorry.
I always tell clients.
Don't cancel me.
No. It is the reality, man.
Right.
And I think that, I share that with people sometimes all the time. I'm like, hey, man, and this might sound bad as a broker, but I'm like, the people who screw up the transaction more than anybody most of the time is not the clients. It's an agent who's getting in their own way with their ego, or they feel that they have something to prove. And I think that's something that we've learned over the years, is that step out of the way. We're here to facilitate and assist in making sure that the transaction is smooth and is a great experience for the client. And I think that, I think sometimes, especially and I'm sure you've seen this as well, especially as we get to higher price points, right? I think sometimes the person on the other side, it's their inclination to think that, oh man, I need to be tough. I need to, for some reason they they associate being tough or difficult with a high-end luxury deal.
Right.
When the reality is, if you deal with most high-end experienced luxury realtors, it's actually a really easy transaction.
Well, and you know what Florence was all about.
Yep.
First of all, Florence was all about resolution.
Yeah.
I mean, when I got my first NBA player and I sold his house, I got it in a contract, I forgot to get the EMD.
Yeah.
And I didn't check up with it because I was so excited that I had this. You know,
So
I was on my way.
Yeah,
I was going to represent every sports figure on earth, right? And they canceled.
Yeah.
Cash deal canceled 3 days before we were going to close.
Yeah.
And I knew it was over. I knew I was out of real estate. You know, I was going to be wearing a little paper hat and asking people if they wanted fries with that, you know, hanging out a window. And Florence was like, no, dear, let's just go sell it. Let's go sell it again.
Yeah.
So we put it out to our database, and within 3 days, we had a whole new deal to a casino boss.
Yeah.
Because if you go straight to resolution, you never have to have the punishing talks or the, you know, the fear or anything. One of the things that I loved yesterday on the bus is I didn't feel any of that fear or that uptight situation, right?
Yeah.
Because we used to have an unrealistic experience at work, right?
Yeah.
We were all about love and support, and we would, you know, do everything together and stuff like that. So I feel that energy here.
Oh, good.
And Florence was always about resolution, and that there is no time for punishment, negativity, anything like that. Let's get the problem resolved. And that's what I don't think most realtors realize, is you don't have to get upset.
Yeah.
And when I came to Shapiro and Shear, I came from hardcore install sales.
Yeah.
Servicemen, ADT had a lot of competition. So I was an asshole. I mean, seriously, because I believed what you just said.
Yeah.
I have to be this difficult, condescending, screaming idiot.
Yeah.
And I was successful.
Yeah.
But I wasn't happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Florence taught me to compete with cooperation, kindness, clarity. And I was kind of like one of those geodes that you look at and they're really pretty, but you don't want to touch them because you cut your shit up, right? And she just kind of smoothed me out by her example into this river rock. And that's smooth and effective. And because if you're crazy, your clients are going to be crazy and the transaction's going to be crazy.
Absolutely.
If you're calm, cool, collected, and confident, that's the way your clients are going to be, and that's the way your transaction's going to be.
And I think that was something I learned from her as well. I remember sitting in a car with her one day listening to her speak with a client. The client was irate. And that was my first time seeing that, where I learned as well, like, those are the moments where we have to stay calm to keep, even when the client can be irate, they might be upset, because I think people forget, you know, when I hear agents complain about, oh, this client is tough for this. Dude, this is known as one of the most stressful things in your entire life, to sell or buy a home and move. And so we're dealing with people in a really difficult, and sometimes it's not always just because they're making $1 million on their house, right? There could be several reasons why they're selling their home. Maybe they did lose their job. Maybe they're changing careers. They have to move out of state. Maybe something tragic has happened and they're selling their home. So, you know, I think sometimes we don't see that side of it with the client. And it's so important to always remember that from her. And talking about the negativity, one thing that, as you said, that reminded me of very much of where we are at today in this market, because I'll remember in a meeting one time everybody was starting to complain about what was going on in the market. And I remember her looking around the entire room to everyone, and she said, okay, guys, today is going to be the last day that we talk about how bad the market is.
Yep.
There is no more talking about how bad the market is. She goes, I was selling homes in the 80s when interest rates were 18%, and I sold homes just fine.
Yep.
And she's like, you know, you'll always find business. And so I think those are important factors to remember, is that you got to remain positive. We are here to be the cheerleader and the ambassador for real estate, and for our clients. And so we have to be the ones that are motivating them, right? And keeping them motivated and keeping the people motivated around us. Speaking of that, let me ask you, you know, I know part of the reason why you started a team, but share with us, why was it important for you? You know, a lot of agents, when I talk to them about starting a team, no, I don't want to deal with other agents. I don't want to do that. I just want to focus on my own business. What led you to going from an independent agent that was on a team to wanting to start your own team and now building a great team of people?
First thing is, one of my core values is, what the hell are we here for if we can't help others?
Yep.
I mean, and secondly, I want to give away everything Florence gave to us.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, she raised a bunch of agents that you could drop us in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And within 90 days, we would have a thriving business.
Absolutely.
And I think the third thing is, and again, don't take this the wrong way, but a lot of new agents are mistreated.
Yeah.
A lot of new agents are kind of raped for commissions,
Mm-hmm.
and promised a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And not delivered.
Yeah.
And so they get frustrated, or they make mistakes and they get sued, and so what I want to do is, I want to provide an environment where leads are provided,
Mm-hmm.
where support 24/7 is provided. And I think if you talk to the agents on my team, I think that they have been able to, even though they're just starting, transact in a way that they couldn't normally in another situation or on their own. So, and I also want to make real estate better.
Yeah.
We've put ourselves in a position to be sued and thought poorly of because of our own behavior.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm not saying that I'm looking to revolutionize the whole industry or anything, but if I can make a
You
bright...
can say it, because we are.
I mean, we talked about
We
that.
are.
We talked about that.
I'll go out. I'll go out there and I'll say it. I do want to change this industry. The way that we're thought of and looked upon as agents. I mean, most people are embarrassed to tell somebody that they're a real estate agent.
Second most loathed occupation next to lawyers.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I can't change the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I want to follow Florence and Ivan's example to where they made a bright, shiny spot where people knew. Because you know what? They didn't have Facebook posts, and they didn't have Instagrams, and they didn't have billboards.
Yeah.
What they had was the most powerful thing on earth, was the trust and respect of their clients.
Yeah.
And then word of mouth, of course. So I want to make, on the Hargraves Luxury team, a safe, educational environment where new agents who are excited about real estate don't get burnt out, don't get abused, and can have the career. Because
well, that's
people don't realize what that license is worth.
Well, you made a great point. I think I hear people talk about all the time the attrition rate of agents, or the number of agents that quit real estate within their first year to 2 years. And what it makes it sound like is that these agents are just giving up and quitting.
Sure.
When the reality is they just haven't been given good guidance. And I tell people that all the time. I'm like, man, when I started on a team, it was, first of all, all my friends told me I was an idiot because of the amount of split that I was paying to the team. And looking back, man, I would have been happy to pay 100% at that time, because number one, what I learned, number two, what I put myself around. And I know 110%, I tell people this all the time, if I would not have started on that team, I will guarantee at 110%, I would not be in real estate today.
And I would have worked for Ivan and Florence for free too.
Yep.
Just because, I mean,
it was a great environment,
dude.
man.
It was like
the
Alice
Tuesday
in
meetings.
Wonderland. It was like pinch me, right?
Yeah.
But to work with two of the most, because they had every reason why they could be really stuck up, conceited, ruthless, kind of devil wears Prada kind of people.
Yeah.
And they weren't.
They were the opposite of that.
I remember one time I took Florence to, top ladies of real estate, and she won, of course, because she won everything.
She won everything.
Right? And she was always so embarrassed about it. And I drove her there, and I drove her home, and she forgot her award in the back of my car. And I was panicked. I'm like, oh my God, she's got to have it. She probably has the space on the shelf already.
Yeah.
And I called her and I said, look, I'm just down the street. I can run it to you. She said, dear, throw it in the trash. And I was like, are you freaking
That's
kidding?
why I resonate with her.
I mean, I'd be wearing it around my neck. I'm the best in the real estate, right? And she was like, dear, that's history. She said, you're only as good as your last deal. And you remember the veranda we had in the office, right? With all the crystal awards and everything. Yeah. She said, I would have those all thrown in the trash because that's the past.
Yeah.
She was so focused on the client in front of you is the most important. The deal that you do is the most important. And if I can pass that on, if I can have an agency of 25 people with you at the helm, and we're running with virtue and integrity, I mean, we will make a bright, shiny spot in real estate and try to take some of the tarnish off the realtor stigma in general.
100%, man. And that's one of the things, like, even when I told Susan that you were coming over, one of the things I was so excited about, honestly, was just that I share with the agents on my team all the time. I share with agents that I meet. A lot of the agents are newer on my team, and so they may not even be aware of who Florence was, unfortunately. So sometimes I'll share videos that I found of her, and
she hated that.
Yeah, but the one thing I try to always share that stuff with everyone, because those were things that made such huge impacts on my life with being with that team. And now I love that you're here, because you and I both get to speak to that. We can share that with all of the agents, because we know you look at what they created. I mean, you look at a lot of the top agents in this town that are still the top agents were mentored by Ivan and Florence, and Florence had a lot of influence on them. And, I always said this when Florence passed. I said, it was really interesting. I said, men usually have male mentors and females have female mentors. I said, but the thing about Florence is that not only did women want to be Florence, every man wanted to be Florence. I said,
it was like a universal remote.
Exactly. Right? And I said, and that was amazing for her time, because, she came up at a time in the industry when it was male dominant.
Yes.
And she was the dominant agent, right? And everybody wanted to be like her.
Yes.
And so she really was a pioneer in the industry, not just because of what she did in luxury, but truthfully because of the time and where she came from. She came from, she was immigrated here as well. And so she didn't have all the advantages, and she still powered through all of that and was able to become the best. And I think that's, two of the things that we've learned about from her was just taking that same type of mindset. She definitely had that can-do type attitude and never give up. So,
and it's like I tell my agents, I'm not going to teach you about real estate.
Yeah.
That you learn through the NRS, through the CE and all of that. You're responsible for your education.
Yeah.
And although we have a full TC service, you're going to be responsible for learning your paperwork and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to teach you, what Florence and Ivan taught me, is how to walk, talk, think, and be a realtor.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter whether I'm in Instagram or Facebook or at Smith's or wherever I am. I got an opportunity for a $2 million listing in Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
Because I was in Utah buying sunglasses, right? But I know how to ask the questions, and I know everybody who has and what I want to instill mostly in my agents is the passion for doing this. Nobody has any passion for what they do anymore.
Yeah.
I got a freaking job. Well, good for you.
Well, I think that goes back to, because number one, the focus with most brokerages, most coaches, everything is always about the money, right?
Always.
Focusing on the money. How much money are you going to make this year? And I think that's, in my opinion, what I've seen a lot of agents get burned out, because no matter what they're doing, it's never enough money, right? And they're never happy. And so, that also goes back to, what I was leading to earlier with why there's such a high failure rate with agents. It's one of the biggest, things for me that I would love to see as a change in this industry is, what other profession can you start and not be an apprentice prior to being the professional and taking on big deals? This is like one of the only industries I know of where today you can go through a 6-week course, you can get licensed tomorrow. Tomorrow you can be out selling a $10 million home, not understanding how any of that paperwork works. And the reality is that most brokers are so overwhelmed, they don't have the time to keep eye on every one of those agents, right? And so you've got an agent that could be potentially risking someone's $500,000 earnest money, and not of their own fault, but because they only know what they know, right? And so they're going to, of course, they're not going to say no to the deal. They're going to go out there and pursue it. And so I think it is so important that in those first couple of years, I think it's so important that these agents, they join a team and that they operate under somebody who has the experience, who's made the mistakes. We've all made plenty of mistakes, because that's the only way that you learn.
Do you remember when we used to sit around the conference table and Ivan and Florence would tell us about the mistakes they made?
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, it was so inspiring.
Yeah.
Oh, I lost this listing because of this, or I did that. But I wanted to address the split and the money, because I still have not paid enough for what Ivan and Florence gave me. I still haven't paid enough, right? I mean,
forever in debt.
Everybody's like, well, I can go here and get 100%. But what is 100% of nothing?
Yeah.
Right?
That was what I told all my friends when I joined with Florence and Ivan, is they're like, Darin, you could go to this place if it's 100% this. And I said, yeah, but dude, I'd rather make 50% or 25% of something than 100% of nothing. And, you know, you and I both we didn't come from, you know, wealthy backgrounds. And so we didn't have that access into that clientele.
Yep.
And this was my way. You know, I always tell people, I'm like, look, man, I never went to college. And so that was my college. That was my opportunity
Dude, they
to
gave
pay.
me a high school diploma just so I wouldn't come back next year. They're like,
I was probably the same.
We don't want him here.
They're like, dude, you got to go, man.
Forget it. You know, teachers have quit. You know what I mean? But I mean, the bottom line is like, yeah, if you're cheap with yourself, then you may keep some money, but you're not going to get a lifelong experience that's going to make you an amazing professional.
Well, and again, I think it goes back to putting the money first versus the client, right?
Well, and
part of
also
the reason,
I think it's personal.
Yeah.
Because they think in somehow, even though they're brand new and they don't know anything, they still deserve everything like they're a seasoned professional.
Well, because that's what they tell them in the real estate course, is that when you go meet with these brokers or you go meet with these team leads, is that just remember that they need you, not the other way around. Which I sat in a class one day and I heard the teacher say that to the students. And I thought, wow, that was the worst thing that you could ever tell them, because the reality is those top brokers, those top agents, they don't need them. There's 18,000 agents out there, and there's plenty coming in every month. That there's plenty to choose from, right? And so you have to make yourself needed. And you know that, like with our opportunity that we had, I think that was the thing, man. Is for me, like I didn't join because of the money. My goal when I joined the first 2 to 3 years, I knew I was going to be working a second job. I knew I was going to be doing something else to create income, because my only goal was to learn how to be the best from the best. That was it.
Well, and I mean, where else was there to be?
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of the coveted seats, the most coveted seats in Las Vegas real estate. I mean, we were what, 15 at our largest, and we were number one in the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
I called Barbara Corcoran's office because I had a deal that was going to go on in New York, and she had sold it by then. But I talked to the operating broker there in New York City, and he said, "Who do you work for?" And I said, "Well, I'm with Shapiro and Shiro. I work for Florence Shapiro and Ivan Shiro." And we got all of the referral stuff straightened out. And he goes, "Oh, by the way, if you ever want to move to New York and be an agent here, you have a desk here at Corcoran, New York.
Yeah.
Because I know what type of agent you are, because you're trained by Florence and Ivan."
Yeah.
That's the day I realized, holy crap, did I land in the right place? Thank you.
Well, that reminds me. I always look back. I was shown an agent house one time in Willow Falls, and the agent came in and we were standing there talking. Her clients were walking through the house, and this was a learning lesson for me, and it's something that still I strive for today because of this. It was always something that stuck in my head, and the agent pulled me aside and she says, "Darin, I got to tell you, you are so lucky to be with Shapiro and Shiro." And I said, "Oh yeah, no, I know." And she says, No. She goes, "When I look at listings in the MLS, I look for Shapiro insured listings, and I take my clients to those listings specifically because I tell them if there's anybody that can help us get the deal done, they can." And that's when I realized how important the branding is, how important reputation is. It's not just having a great listing. It's also about who's attached to that listing as well, right?
Didn't we have over
people want to deal with them?
Didn't we have like over 58% of all the luxury listings in Las Vegas?
Easily.
Yeah. I was like, holy shit, we got half the market and more.
Easily. Let's talk about learning lessons, man. And not to put you on the spot with this, but is there something that for agents out there that are watching this today who, you know, I think the biggest thing is we're always so worried about making a mistake, right? The reality is you just need to accept that mistakes are going to happen. And at the end of the day, like you talked about, it's not about, oh shit, you know, something bad just happened. It's now, okay, now let's find a solution to fix the problem. Is there a story in your past that you would share that, hey man, this was probably one of my biggest learning lessons in real estate for me?
Yeah. I have an amazing client, Kevin. And Kevin has served this country as a fighter pilot. I mean, just really Top Gun guy, right?
Yeah.
Just tall and gorgeous. He's got this gorgeous wife and these 2 little cheesecake kids that are perfect.
Cheesecake.
And so I took his listing in Summerlin. And man, we butt heads. He's just a perfectionist. He's questioning everything. I'm totally irate.
Yeah.
So I
It was a
call up,
pilot. You would hope that he.
I call up Florence and I said, Florence, I'm going to tell this guy to shove his listing up his ass.
Yeah.
Florence, of course, right? No, dear, that's not what we do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's what I do. So you better tell me what we're going to do. She said, I want you to go home and I want you to read your duties owed. And then I want you to call me back. And I went home and I read the duties owed. The transactions are not about us.
No.
We are legally and fiduciarily bound to act in such a way that everybody involved in the transaction has a successful transaction.
Mm-hmm.
So she said to me, she said, so see, Bill, does it say anywhere in there that they have to change their behavior or they have to, or they have to be
They
nice?
have to be nice? Nope.
Or no, it's not about it. Kevin called me from Afghanistan a year later. We sold the house.
Uh-huh.
Called me from Afghanistan. He said, my wife and I were divorcing. We were having trouble with our kids. I was going back to Afghanistan. I didn't know whether I was going to come home. But I'm going to retire. I'm coming home. You were so amazing with us.
Yeah.
During one of the most difficult times.
Yeah.
I found a house on Zillow. Would you help me buy it?
Yeah.
I said, absolutely, Kevin. It was my listing. So not only did I sell the original Summerlin house, I sold the other house that my clients had. So I double-ended that deal. Then I just sold that house for him again about 6 or 8 months ago and bought him and his new wife a home in Summerlin.
Yeah. 6
transactions that I would have blown if it was about me.
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing that Florence and Ivan taught me. It is not about you.
Absolutely
It is not about your feelings. It is about making sure that you guide these people to a successful close. And that's everybody.
Yeah.
If you've got a buyer's agent that's new or inexperienced or not doing the right thing, step up.
Yeah.
Because it's not called a commission.
Yeah.
It's a co-op.
Yeah.
Right? So we're supposed to cooperate.
And guide them, right?
Not say, oh, this guy's a jerk, this guy's an idiot, I'm having so much. Well, if you're sitting on your ass complaining and you know what the right thing is, why would you not? There was a girl panicking on the bus yesterday.
Yeah.
Why can't I get the inspection report? Why can't I get it? Why can't I get it? I said, you have no right to it until you request for repairs.
Yeah.
And then it all comes over to you.
Yeah.
And she immediately calmed down and therefore calmed down her client.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would you leave somebody out there struggling, not knowing when it's potentially blowing your deal?
Yeah.
And you know what? If you have to take $1,000 out of your pocket to make a freaking transaction work,
do it.
Don't be an idiot, because that $1,000 will guarantee you a client for life.
100%, man. I share a story with somebody all the time. I had a client that I screwed up and didn't get something in writing, and it was going to end up costing my client. Mm-hmm. So I called the other party and said, hey, look, man, I'm willing to waive my commission. I'm willing to let it go. It was a large transaction. It was close to $3 million. And both sides were very surprised. Even my own client called me and said, Darin, why would you do that? And I said, are you going to do business with me in the future? And he said, absolutely. I said, that's all I need to know. I said, it's not about one transaction for me. It's about your lifelong business for me, right? I have clients that I've done business with since I was 18 years old. I still have the client that you met yesterday, Mark. I've worked with Mark since I was 18, man, over 30 years. And he's remained a client of mine because it's always about putting the client first and doing what's right for them. And I think your story teaches such a great lesson that, number one, sometimes your most difficult client will become your biggest advocate, right? Because if you can prove to them, and sometimes they look back and they're like, oh, wow, it's pretty tough on him, but wow, he handled it right, took care of it, didn't take it personal, just kept moving forward with the deal, didn't let my emotions get the best of them. And they become your biggest advocate, right? And your biggest learning lesson. It's a great learning lesson for all of us. So Bill, what are the next steps for you, man, with growing your team? Where do you want to go next with your business in the next few years? What are you working towards? What's your vision?
Like I said, I've kind of adopted the same thing as Florence taught us. I don't want to be the biggest. I want to be the best.
Yeah.
I want to...
which led to them being the biggest.
Right. Right. And the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But like I said, to have a safe environment, I'd like to see a team of 25 to 50 agents. I'm in the process now of taking the state test in Hawaii because that is I may have been born in Massachusetts, but I was raised and bred Honolulu style. So I'm Ohana, you know what I mean? Kaima Aina over here. And that's where my heart is. So I want to serve the state of Hawaii. And because this is the 9th island.
Yeah.
You know, so we get a lot of people. And I don't know. I just feel like now that I'm here,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can dream big enough.
That's what I love to hear,
I don't, and I just want us all to rise together.
Mm-hmm.
Our clients are, you know, I mean, I just finished a deal with this amazing 30-ish old Hispanic couple,
Mm-hmm.
3 kids. So they interviewed 6 agents. 6. And this really bothers me. So I'm going to try to handle it. Beautiful people.
Yeah.
All 6 agents ignored them. All 6 agents did not give them the attention they deserved. Just not as people, you know, looking for a house, but just as human beings in general.
Yeah.
Well, they have one of the biggest furniture stores in town, super successful.
I love it.
Right? Both immigrants, beautiful children. They were ignored and judged. We just closed on their first home at
Mm-hmm.
1.2 million.
Nice.
We're looking for a bigger store for they want to buy a commercial property for 2 million. And we also just closed on their first investment property at 410,000.
That's awesome,
with
man.
a tenant in place that covers their thing. Because, you know,
Yeah.
I taught them how to do a buy and hold. Doesn't matter whether you're making money, but by the time your kids go to school, you can sell this and send them to any Ivy League school they want.
I love it.
So that's the kind of work I do. That's the thing that just absolutely, the reason I do luxury is so that I can go back and do first responders, teachers, you know what I mean? First time home buyers, these people who are neglected,
Yeah.
right? I'm looking for bilingual agents to expand in that area so that we can more service the community.
Everyone. Yeah.
Because you know what? Don't judge.
Yeah.
Don't judge.
Oh, I remember one time Florence was handing out leads, and I remember a bunch of agents didn't want $250,000 leads.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember her saying, no, you guys will work those leads.
Mm-hmm.
You'll work every lead because you never know where a deal will come from. And she shared with us that probably one of the most well-known casino owners in this town, that her first transaction with him was very small.
Yep.
And, you know, if she would have led with that same mindset or thought process that, oh, I don't deal with this level of clientele, that was why it was always important for me as we were building out the website. You know, I wanted to convey that, yes, we do deal in luxury, and that's our specialty, and that's what I've specialized in. But I handle all price points. I had a client a few weeks ago. They submitted a lead, and it was a $275,000 condo. And I called the person, and he asked me 3 times, "Is it Darin?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, aren't you the owner? I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, I just didn't expect you to call me."
Right.
And I go, "Well, I saw your lead pop up and there was nobody else around, so I called." But it just goes back to, and you're right, man, because some of my smallest transactions have led to my biggest transactions that I've ever done. And so I think it's really important that even when you step into luxury, now again, going back to the website, that's why we made sure that we have a tagline on there that says luxury at all price levels.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you never know what's going to lead to, you don't know whose uncle is a billionaire or this or that. And it's not even about that. It's just about making sure that they have a great experience at the end of the day. And that's what I always tell the agents. I'm like, dude, the greatest thing is with our luxury experience and what we do and what we provide is that $400,000 seller, they get the same photographer that we're using on our $5 million homes. They get the same videographer that we're doing all the same stuff to help market their property as we do for the big homes.
Well,
right?
like you said, luxury is not a price.
Yeah.
I've ordered blankets off of Temu, and we all know what Temu is, right? All right. Let's just not pretend, right? But they've been more luxurious than ones that I bought in high-end stores.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Because they're comfortable and they're right. That's what I wanted to understand is that we've sold homes in a small price point that are more luxurious than some of the huge things we've walked into and go, ooh, isn't this interesting? Wow. Right? So that's what we have to understand. I think that we have to have a return to values.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately why I'm here, because I respect your values. I mean, we both have people out there talking shit about us.
No,
Look.
that's all right. Yeah.
Look, you know what?
I just always say they don't know me.
Well, what I say is, while you're talking shit about me, I'm out selling something. So
right.
you go right ahead. But yeah, I mean, I think it's valuable what I just said, and what I just realized in the interview is, like, I feel so comfortable here now. I don't think I can dream big enough.
And I love hearing you say that, because I always think back to Ed Milet, who's one of my favorite speakers. He always talks about, he's like, in order to build a great company, you have to build a vision so large that everybody within that company can see their vision within it.
Right.
And that's how you succeed. So that is a huge compliment to hear that from you, and a huge motivator to me.
Yeah.
That inspires me. As we wrap up here, Bill, is there anything that you want to finish off with, just something you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah. You know what? I just thought of something. And I believe in you as much today as I did at our lunch. And I've always believed in you. You have,
Well, thank you.
You know what I mean? But one of the things that I want to say, just for myself, is I am a great coach. I am not a scream at you, demean you. I will take your hand and we will walk together.
Yeah.
If I rise, you rise.
Yeah.
And I think that's what separates the Hargraves luxury team. I think that's what separates Virtue. And that's the environment I want to be in.
And I think that speaks to how you're running your team. I see it firsthand, that you're not just a team lead. You're not somebody that's just helping them, guide them with their paperwork and how to negotiate a transaction. You are truly there. The nice thing is that they're getting your coaching services without having to pay anything on a monthly basis, right? They do that when they sell something, but they're getting your coaching services, and they're getting the years of knowledge and value that you bring by being a part of that team. So
you and I could have never afforded Florence and Ivan's coaching.
Oh God, no.
We'd still be paying on that student loan. Shit, right? But I mean, how fortunate and how selfish it would be of us not to pass that on.
Absolutely, man.
So
well,
let's
awesome,
do
Bill.
that.
Awesome, man. I love having you here. I'm so excited that you're now started with Virtue, and we're going to take this to the next level, and excited about it. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us today. If you don't, or you're thinking about selling or buying, make sure you reach out to Bill and his great team, and they'll help you.
If you're an agent looking for a safe, productive, amazing environment to grow your business, call me as well.
That's awesome. All right, guys. Thanks. Have a great day.